Welcome to the Employee to Boss podcast, a podcast for everyone with an entrepreneurial spirit. Every week, I am joined by successful guests in all different industries and stages of business who will share what their experience was like transitioning from employee to boss. Expect action steps, inspiration, and hot topics. This is a resource for you if you're wanting to start a business, go all in on your side hustle, get to the next level in your thriving business, or just hear what it's like taking the leap to becoming your own boss. I'm your host, Haley Hayhurst, the owner of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast production agency specializing in editing, marketing, and strategy. Let's dive into today's topic. If you want to run your business more seamlessly, this episode is for you. Today I'm chatting with Ree Pierce, a fractional COO, all about the operations of your business. So a little bit more about Ree. Ree is a fractional COO for service-based businesses. She supports multi-passionate founders in creating systems for their lives and businesses so that they can do more without feeling the weight of more. This is a really fun episode. I cannot wait for you to listen to it because Ree shares some really great tips. As we're building our businesses, sometimes we lean too far into the business and we forget that we are living a life. And then there's times in your life and your business where you're not focusing enough on growing your business. And then months down the line, you see the results of that, whether it be not getting new clients, not having any growth, stagnancy, all these things. There's a balance between the two. And that's what Ree helps business owners with, and that's what you'll be learning more about today. If you have any questions, you can definitely check out the show notes and message either Ree or myself. Both of our DMs are open and we would love to speak with you. All right, let's get into the episode. Hey Ree, thank you so much for joining me on the Employee to Boss podcast. I am really excited to be having this conversation with you today.
I'm so excited to chat as always. I think we have a great conversation, so I'm excited to get into it.
Yes, me too. So we actually met because we were in the same coaching program for a while, ITI with Kate Perkovic, and we were just bypassing each other. You were like at the end of it and I was at the start. So we didn't really get to know each other during the program. So I'm glad that we get this chance to connect after. So we're going to talk all about your journey from employee to boss, what you do now. And I've never actually had a COO on the podcast before. So I'm really excited to get into what that means for businesses and really how you can help them. So why don't you just start off by telling us more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to chat as well, and I didn't know that you haven't had a COO on the podcast, so that's exciting. Yeah, if you don't know me, and for you as well, Haley, I'm Ree. I'm currently living in Australia after a sort of 10-year stint in the UK. Nice to be back in the sunshine for sure. And I am a COO. So what that means is I essentially work alongside founders and business owners to streamline everything to do with their operations. But my take on it comes from a really holistic place. So it's not just boxing in and helping you with your business and how that operates, but also helping the founder in how they're operating in their life and then as it pulls into their business as well. So it's a really multifaceted service and also multifaceted process that we go through as well, which I think is where my talent lies, because I often support people that have this multifaceted life. So they consider themselves a multi-passionate, or that they want to have multiple businesses or do multiple things. And so being able to tackle both their business and their life with this lens of how can we make sure that they blend? How can we make sure that they're interconnected and both working on all cylinders is a really special and important thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a balance that a lot of business owners don't have. So I know that the audience is going to get a lot of value out of this conversation today. So tell us about your journey from employee to boss. What did you used to do and how did you get into what you do now? And what did the journey look like along the way?
The journey was a long and interesting one. I started my career actually in luxury hotels.
Mm-hmm.
And that started from like a really young age, sort of 13, 14. And it all started that part of it started because I had joined college to become a lawyer and unfortunately had to drop out due to personal stuff going on and all sorts of life things and decisions. But I ultimately knew that that was something I still wanted to pursue. I just wasn't able to pursue it in the traditional sense. So I wasn't able to sort of continue the college education. And so what that meant was finding alternative paths. And I remember sitting down with my law lecturer and having a conversation about what that could look like. I'd already had a job in hospitality for a long time, that I actually was really loving as well. I was really enjoying being in that environment. It was quite fast paced. I was always learning a lot. I was really able to sort of take the bull by his horns, as they say, and I felt like I had a lot of control over my growth, which for someone that would probably self-identify as a workaholic was a really good thing. And so in this conversation with my law lecturer, it was sort of, how can I pursue this without the traditional route? And what that looked like was, in my head, becoming a sort of legal administrator and then being able to, after a number of years, take the bar and take that route. So in my head, there was this journey that we had to go on of getting to legal administrator and sort of not being able to do that in a traditional sense. So being the creative problem solver that I am, I took that on as, okay, well, my hospitality role needs to shift into a hospitality role in a hotel. In that hotel, I need to work my way up. I need to sort of move out of food and beverage, get to the front desk, be a receptionist. Then from there, sort of move my way into the more office roles and become an administrator. Then once I'm an administrator in that industry, I should be able to transfer that and become an administrator in a law firm and then essentially work my way up. And it didn't work that way. It definitely did, in the sense of that was so possible and my journey was going that way. But once I got into the sort of more office roles within the hotel, I got fully immersed in it. And as I said, I was really enjoying it and loved it.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of had this turning point 3 or 4 years in. COVID had happened. I'd come home from a trip abroad with my other half. I'd come home to what I thought was a job still waiting for me. But because there was literally no hotels during COVID, at least where I was living, everything had sort of closed. I had been faced with getting just like a administrative job in a business that I didn't really care about. And so during that time, the sort of first 3 to 6 months of being back, I was handing out my CV to law firms, also just having lots of conversations with law firms and trying to sort of garner how I can insert myself into that world. And I also had been introduced in the weirdest possible way to freelancing. And I didn't really ever know what that meant. I was about to go gung-ho setting up this business. And all of a sudden I had 3 offers from law firms to get that role that had sort of been up on my pinboard for many years. And ultimately I decided that this was the route that I wanted to take. I wanted to go all in and start my business. I left my job, both willingly and unwillingly. I was let go, but at a time where I'd already more than decided that it was time for me to move on. It was toxic. I really wasn't enjoying it. They were just really had no willingness to grow and evolve. And that was completely the opposite of where I was at in my life. It was like everything is growing and evolving and we're moving fast and I'm learning a lot and I want to contribute a lot. And the workplace just really wasn't conducive to that. And so it all started when I sort of saw this marketer come into this workplace and they weren't an employee, but they were coming in and supporting us. And that triggered my mind as like, oh, okay, that exists. What if I could do what I do for other businesses and I could make all of these changes for companies that actually want it, like they want to grow and they want to change and they want all these things that I can do for them without, hiring me on as an employee. And so at this crossroads, I was like, yes, this is what I'm going to do. I'd already sort of gotten a little far in that journey of setting things up. Because as I said, I wasn't setting up as a freelancer. I wasn't just trying to look for work. I incorporated my company from day one, full website, all contracts. Like there was no part of it that felt sort of put to get like unput together, or just something to get a bit of side money. It wasn't a
It
side
wasn't
hustle.
like
I
a
was like,
hobby. Yeah.
I'm building a company like now, which was so much fun. And I think it also really aided my journey, and it's definitely aided a lot of my beliefs going into businesses now, because all of that groundwork I did to start actually led me to being fully booked within a month.
Wow.
And that fully booked journey was a journey of its own, which we can definitely talk about. But that is sort of all the pre-stages of me going from employee to now business owner and everything else that has come with it.
Wow. That's awesome that you went from, new business to booked in 1 month. Can you tell us more about that? Because I'm sure it wasn't just like, you're like, oh, I'm a new business, work with me. I'm sure there was a lot that went into that first month of business.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, there was quite a setup phase for me. So I spent sort of 2 or 3 months whilst I was still working, setting everything up
Mhm.
and incorporating and making my contracts, designing my packages and designing the website and things like that. So that first month was not the first month of, considering the idea and going for
Yeah.
it. It was just the first month of marketing myself and being incorporated and getting started. But it was a massive learning curve, because in my head, going from a job and also not having been in this world before, fully booked to me meant 40 hours of client work a week, and really fully booked. And
Yeah.
so I did that, but I forgot all of the other stuff that goes into running a business, meaning that whilst I was fully booked, there was also a whole lot of other stuff to do in order to continue growing the business, which was definitely something I wanted. And so it was wild. It was a crazy, crazy time.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
fully booked, like the steps to getting there, and I think this I mentioned this in when I was saying that transition, becoming fully booked in that first month, in my opinion, was a definite byproduct of all of the groundwork I had done. And it's something that I speak to my clients a lot about now, which is this concept of build it before they come. I believe so wholeheartedly in that to an extent. I definitely think that there is so much room for messy and fast action, but this build it before they come sort of mindset is really what enabled me to go into that and literally just completely book out my calendar and get income that I'd never ever seen before. In that first month, even I was making sort of more than I would be making in 3 or 6 months at my job,
Yeah.
which was mind blowing. So
Yeah. It's crazy how that happens, but congratulations. And how long ago was that? You've been in business for a couple years now, right?
yeah, this is my fourth year, I
Okay.
believe.
Yeah.
The maths on that is a little bit ropey, and I think that time with COVID and everything was wild. So I started this business in December 2020.
Okay. Awesome. Very cool. Well, thanks for sharing that because I think that's so interesting to hear, you know, like you're saying, it's not like that build it before you come or before they come kind of mentality is awesome. So whenever I launch a product or a service, I always have like the concepts and I have the idea of like who it's going to be, but then I have the other mindset where I'm like, once they're here, I'll figure it out. And it always works out, but I think the other way definitely leads to less stress and more outcomes. So that is a great way to think about new offers and new businesses. So for any listeners who are planning your business, maybe you haven't started yet, or maybe you're in your first couple months, that is a great way to prepare yourself because when you do start a business, like you're saying, right, like you might book yourself out, but you still have a business to run. And that's going to take time. And that's like the hard part where you're like, cool, I have 40 hours a week, but oh my God, I still have my own business to figure out too. So that is a whole thing in itself.
Yeah, for sure. I've learned that there is a balance to be had, and like finding that right balance, and especially being able to lean on a support network or systems that fuel that balance for you. So it doesn't have to be that you have to move out of your creative zone and put all of your eggs and sort of make sure that everything's right before you talk about anything, or before you start to even sell people on things. Because I definitely believe that energy, when you're all fired up and you're doing the parts of it that you really enjoy and you want to talk about it and you want to share it, that's a really powerful moment to be in and to run with. And so there's a way to balance, and that's something that's also to be refined per person, but important to mention, I think.
Absolutely. So tell us more about what a COO does. So I know you help with their business and also their life, but what are some COO tasks that whenever someone comes to you, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you can take that off my plate. That's amazing."
Our role in a business is really to come in alongside the founder and take everything that they want from their business, whether it's, different offers that they want, amount of revenue that they want, size of team that they want, expansion plans that they have, even their role within the business and what that looks like. So to take all of that knowledge and basically figure out a way to make it possible, profitable, and efficient. So it's really taking that strategy piece off of them. And then the way that our team is really cool is, yes, I'm the COO of their company, and I go in and I create the strategy, and I'm sort of in the trenches month to month, looking at what's working and what's not working, or if we're actually bridging the gap between where we currently are and where we want to go. But I also have a team under me. And what I like to say to clients is, literally everything in your business is your operations. It's how you operate, it's what you do. So your marketing has operations, your finances have operations, your client delivery has operations. And that's the same thing as well with your processes and the things that you're doing. Even if you're not paying attention to them, it's all interconnected and it's all moving along in a process. We just need to make sure that we're optimizing that.
Yeah. The optimization piece of all the different sides of your business. And when you're a solo entrepreneur, sometimes you're going like 100% in your marketing, and then sometimes you only give marketing like 20% of your abilities because as one person, you only have 100% to give, but that has to be spread out through so many different places. So that's awesome that you're able to help them alongside your team. At what point do you think a business owner is ready for a COO compared to a VA or, someone that you can give like 5 hours of work to?
Honestly, I think number one is dependent on where you're going with your business. If you're like sat in your business and you're thinking, I'm happy with where I'm at, I don't want to grow, I just want to sort of rinse and repeat what we're already doing, and having a VA come in to sort of support me with everything I've already created is feeling really good to me right now. And that's sort of an area where I wouldn't be looking to hire a COO. Whereas if you're in the other bucket where you're not where you want to be, your sort of business isn't running the way that you want it to, you're noticing gaps, you're feeling this energy gap between 20% here, 80% over here, still extra 40-60% that you need to put in other places, but you're not finding the time, and you're not finding the space or the energy or the understanding of how to move forward there. And you're thinking like, oh, I want to hire someone to slot in and take things off my plate and make things feel better, and hopefully that would just like give me extra time. That is when I'd say a COO is really going to make a big impact, because it's going to enable you to, rather than just hiring for a task and then having to make sure that the process for that task is down pat and that you're managing that person and that sort of their whole work environment is good. It enables, hiring a COO enables you to really hand off and say, this is the vision I have, this is where I'm currently at, how do we bring that to life? And then that's all sort of taken care of. So I think there's that gap where people think, well, I'm just in this place of craziness and I need someone to take things off my plate, so I'm going to delegate these tasks, sort of forgetting that those tasks are one piece, and that there's also the actual delegation is a massive piece of it. So they're going to have to do the outlay of making sure they know what to do and how it's done and doing it the way that they want. And then they have to manage them and then review things. And it sort of becomes this cycle where they don't actually get the time back and the support back and the energy that they were looking for when they hired, because they've not had that sort of high level overview of how that's really impacting the overall things that are going on in their business.
Totally. So that makes a lot of sense because I feel like a lot of people, this is common, they don't hire until they're like, oh my God, I have no time and I'm like ripping my hair out, right? And so, and then they do whatever's easiest, but I'm totally with you, like hiring a VA. So I actually started my business being a VA. That was like how I got started 4 years ago. And when I was doing that, like, yeah, you had to give me step by step of what to do because I'm not in your business. You're hiring me for a specific task. I don't know what, of course I learned as I went, like what your offers were, who your ideal audience was, but there is a lot of training that goes into it when you do hire a VA. So having someone like you who is going to be with you for longer and see the whole business, there is a big difference in, the effort that you put in, but also the value that you give.
Yeah, absolutely. And this really isn't to diminish VAs whatsoever. They have a vital piece, like a vital role
100%.
in
Yeah.
companies. Absolutely. But in order for them to feel good as well, and I'm sure you might attest to this, like it's really hard to support someone when they're flustered and they like you feel like by asking for the things that you need in order to do your job, you're actually taking away from them and you're making them more
Yeah.
stressed. Like that's a really difficult position to be in as someone that is trying to support. And so when you bring on a VA and you really want to get the best out of them and you want to provide a really nice workspace for them too, the best thing you can do is understand where they fit into those processes, have things laid out and documented, and also just ensuring that they're coming in at a place of like, it makes sense for you to handle these things. This is your role. This is how you contribute, rather than like, just take anything. I need you to just help,
Yeah.
because that doesn't really help anyone.
No, no, it's like a million little things sometimes add up, but not the way that you want them to. So tackling those big things is definitely like the best way to actually see growth. And so you're working with operations of all types. I'm curious if you could share maybe some of your top operation tips for, business owners in the first few years of business. So first, like just starting to maybe 2 years when you're just trying to figure out everything. What are your top operation tips?
Oh, I like this question. Number one, I reckon, is getting visibility wherever you can. So in my head, visibility looks like being able to tap into a certain area of your business, whether it's your marketing, as you mentioned, your finances, your client delivery, and have an overview of what's going on, whether it is literal tasks or whether it's things like analytics when it comes to your marketing, financial overviews when it's your finances, where your clients are at when it's in sort of the delivery space. Being able to tap in and see exactly what's going on with everything and the overall health of how that's moving. And these can be built out really simply, but it definitely does take time. And so it's one area that I always suggest if you're sort of starting your business, you're in the first 1 to 2 years, things are feeling messy, and you don't really know what you need to do to fix it. Like you're not sure what area it is that's feeling rough, or you want to accelerate, then the best thing you can do is just start putting in the building blocks to giving yourself that visibility.
I think that's a great tip because that's like all of what business is about. That's probably how you got your first, clients in your first month. Like you have to get visible. And I feel like that's such an overlooked piece. And I shared on my Instagram story of how I just took 2 weeks off and, you know, all of my podcast episodes went up, my clients' podcast episodes went up, and people were like, "How did you do it?" And I was like, "All you have to do is like plan ahead." And it's like so simple, it's silly. And it's the same thing with that of like, yes, you have to get visible, but also you need visibility into your business. And it's a whole thing, but it's like so simple, it's almost silly, right?
Absolutely. Like even when you say you had to plan ahead, like in order to do that, you needed to be able to zoom out and see like what needed to be done. Where are the
Yep.
gaps? Like if I have this time, what usually happens in that time frame? And so like that piece of visibility for you is if you're in this sort of rhythm of working in your business, it's easy to tap in and get and to document for the right now and to work on. But what if you're then able to use, okay, well, if this is what I've done for this 2 weeks, how can I make it so next time I don't really have to go searching for it, but it's then there for me to tap in and get that visibility at any point in time, helping you to keep planning ahead and to keep really being able to like set the bar of how you want to operate and how things happen when you're there and when you're not there as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, next step to this is probably having those systems and understanding like what you need to do to have that visibility. When you're working with clients and maybe it's a spot in their business where it's kind of messy because they've been neglecting it for a while, do you have advice for how you come in and kind of clean that up and organize it for them so they could see it, have that visibility again?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, how we do it is our first task within a business is always a complete audit. And that looks across like the 5 pillars that we see of their operations, and then the 5 pillars that we see of the founder themselves and their personal goals, and pitting that against their current reality. So we're sort of looking at those 15 different areas and really dissecting like everything that feels good, everything that doesn't feel good, how this actually contributes to where they want to go. And so how you can do this yourself, number one, I would say, is just get super clear on what you do want. So that's going to look like, what you want from your business income, what you want for your personal income, how much time you want to spend in your business, what sort of team you want to have, what sort of offers excite you and that you might want to build, what you want to do outside of your business. Like all of these things are just really important, and are not to be looked over when it comes to building a business, so that you build it the right way, the first way, rather than getting 3 years down the line and realizing you hate everything that you've built.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like that number one step. But post that, it's sort of doing in really simple terms, doing a massive brain dump of, okay, what's everything that's going on right now? Like, what do I do each day? What do I do each week? What do I do each month? What do I do each quarter, each year that gets me towards my goals or doesn't? So like we're looking at literally everything, and then being able to put things like a frequency, a function, so like what area of your business it is, a time estimate towards them, and really just sort of gathering this master list of everything that goes into your business. And from there, you sort of have this, okay, this is what we're currently doing. This is like everything that's going on that gets me there. And this is where I want to be. And you start to, because you're considering things in functions, you're thinking, okay, well, in finance section, like this is where I want to be. And this is where I am. These are the tasks I'm doing to be where I am. What is that gap? Like, what do I need to add or subtract in order to bridge that gap from where I am right now and where I want to be? And it becomes quite a sort of natural process once you've documented, number one, where you want to be, and number two, where you are. It becomes almost like impossible to not do, to look at what are the missing steps.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely what I would say is take those 2 steps yourself and really sort of start to think about what you can do to bridge them.
Yeah, I love that. And, I'm thinking like any big business that you can think of has a CEO, which is probably the business owner in a small business, but then there's also COO, there's CFO, there's CMO. Like there are so many different people with different expertise that make one business run. And so, as solo entrepreneurs or small businesses, we do try to do it all ourselves. And sometimes it is nice to be able to have someone alongside you that's really going to help you grow because that is their expertise. So, can you tell us more about how people can work with you and about your offers?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a different spectrum really of offers. We have the full management where we're coming in, as I said, alongside the founder and really taking everything and being able to run with it alongside you, execute on your behalf, build what you're wanting to create. Then we have more consulting offers that really allow us to work with you and instill that knowledge and really sort of craft the game plan for you and your team to go ahead and create. And then we have our membership, which is just relaunching actually. And it's really all about creating a life of more. And so it's looking at this philosophy we have that everything is interconnected. It looks at your personal goals, your business goals, and your current reality. And it's this community space where not only do you get my support in really being able to create that interconnectedness and therefore create where you want to be, but you also get the insight into how other people are building this for themselves and the systems that they're creating as I sort of coach everyone and work through it with everyone. So it's a really excellent space, especially when you're just starting out, to be able to, you know, not just have your blinders on and look at sort of what, let's say, I'm doing, but really being able to take inspiration from all of these places and create a clear action plan for how to build your best operation.
I love that. Yeah, looking at your life is definitely a vital part of building your business. So that's such a cool membership that you're creating. Where can people find more information on that? I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. I think the best place would probably just be over on my Instagram. So I'm at Ops by Ree, and yeah, the link will be in the show notes. But there's all my links are there, so you can, you know, have a look at the sales page, but also definitely like strike up a conversation with me. I'm a talkative person and love a chat, whether it's about one of my offers or not. So please don't hesitate and don't be a stranger.
Perfect. I'll put that link in the show notes. And thank you so much, Bree. I just have one last question for you. So this is how I end every podcast episode. Just so the audience doesn't just listen, they get to actually take action based on our conversation. So I'd love for you to share 3 action steps that they can do this week to move forward with their business or their life or whatever it is that you want to challenge them with, that they can just achieve in 1 week and see results.
Absolutely. So I'd say create your master list, number 1. From your master list, put it against your vision and sort of start to analyze the gaps. And then from there, look at everything and work out how you can create more visibility amongst all of those things.
I love those. Super simple, but super, super powerful. So thanks again, Reed. I've loved this conversation, and I just really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
You're so welcome. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Employee to Boss podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I hope that you implement the actionable steps from this week's experts so you can get started with your business today. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Employee to Boss podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps more than you could ever imagine. Remember, a little progress each day leads to big results. We come out with a new episode every Tuesday. To access our show notes, transcripts, and courses, please check out espressopodcastproduction.com.